Most of the time, when we talk about stress, specifically sources of stress, we tend to focus on those things that are external to us, things that are other than ourselves. So, for example, situations or something that happened or other people, something other than ourselves. But the reality is that the self can be a source of stress as well. What does that mean? That means that you can be the reason why you're stressed out. That doesn't mean that you're the only reason or even that you're the main reason, but certainly there may be things that you're doing, not even aware of them, that are adding to your stress, things that are stressing you out. You may think to yourself, hey, this is news to me. I wouldn't do anything to stress myself out. But everybody does something, or maybe multiple things, without even realizing it. Maybe every day, maybe every so often. But I bet if I go through a list of some ways of how you could be potentially adding to your own stress levels, I bet you that you could identify with one or two or more things that you do either on a regular basis or every now and then. So what kind of things could be adding to your stress levels, to your experiencing stress that come from the self, that come from you? Things such as self-doubt or self-criticism can be very stressful. They can really contribute to the stress of your life experience. If you think about how hard you might be on yourself, or how many times you doubt yourself, whether it's the choices you make, the decisions you make, how you live your life, there could be 1,000,001 things that you could potentially either criticize yourself about or doubt yourself about. What about worry? Everybody worries at some point. Some people worry more than others. But if you're a person who worries by nature, who is more prone to worrying, you are effectively adding stress to your life. What about something like social media? There's an awful lot of pressure that people can experience from social media. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, Dr. G, you said we're talking about things that come from within that are stressing us out. Yes, social media is an external stressor. However, your choice to engage with social media is more likely than not an internal decision. Let me clarify what I mean by that. Most people can choose to minimize the use of social media or disengage from it entirely. Unless you are using social media as part of your business, maybe you're a business person, an entrepreneur, something like that, then you have an opportunity to disconnect or minimize how much you utilize social media, how much social media you allow in your life. And even if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, many of you can delegate the interaction with social media and not allow that source of stress into your life. This is why I included the use of social media in this list, because there can be tremendous pressures that come from social media. People tend to be ruthless in many instances, things that they would never have the guts to say to someone's face, they seem free to say via a social media outlet. So this is a tremendous source of stress for many people, or a potential source of stress for many people, which is why I'm including it on the list. But for most, the use of social media, if you use it at all or how much you use it, is entirely up to you. When you engage in something like overthinking, you can potentially stress yourself out. And when that overthinking of a situation or whatever happened, an event, an exchange, a conversation, whatever it may be, when it goes to the next level beyond just overthinking, it turns into ruminating. It's something that just becomes a cycle, something that doesn't have a resolution and doesn't have an end, something that takes up your time and energy and your thoughts, and you never get any resolution out of it. So overthinking, which can sometimes turn into ruminating, can be a serious source of stress for many people. So that's one to consider as well. And finally, the last one that I will mention in this video is the idea of perfectionism. There is nothing wrong with doing your best and striving for excellence, but striving for excellence is different from perfectionism. Many will argue that perfectionism doesn't exist. Some will say that it does. But for those who are labeled or consider themselves to be perfectionists, oftentimes this is less than productive experience, sometimes detrimental. And perfectionism, when we look at it from a psychological point of view, can sometimes be linked with a fear, whether it's a fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of disappointing, whether it's yourself or others. So trying to reach perfectionism when perfectionism doesn't really exist can be an added stressor to your life. So rather than striving for perfection, strive for excellence. Excellence is an excellent option to go for. You're always looking to learn, to grow, to improve, to do better, but never feel like a failure because you didn't meet some unattainable, maybe even imaginary end goal that nobody can reach. So perfectionism can be a difficult thing, can be something that adds stress to your life. So if you take a few minutes and consider your own experience, how are you potentially adding stress to your own life? Maybe you are able to identify with all of the things that I listed here, maybe just one or two. The bottom line with this is that there are things that you can do to improve the situation. As with anything else, as I always tell you, it will take time and effort on your part to make any changes in your life and in your experience. So you will have to put some effort into it, and it will take some time, but you can see results, you can see changes. So what can you do to start working towards a better experience where you are not a source of stress for yourself, maybe a lesser source of a stress? That's a good start, right? And if you can eliminate stressing yourself out, that would be ideal. But even if you just start with a goal of reducing how much stress you bring into your own life, that's a great start. So let's talk about things like making time for yourself, time to unwind. Sometimes we all have to-do lists, and sometimes they get pretty lengthy, and we don't want to disappoint others. We don't want to fail, whether it's in our own eyes or in the eyes of other people. We just never stop, but you really need time to yourself. And I'm not just talking about work and responsibilities that are work-like, whether it's at work or outside of work in your personal life. I'm talking about things, even such things such as social commitment. Sometimes you might be exhausted and not want to be a social butterfly, but you feel a sense of responsibility to your friends or family or whatever the case may be. While being social is important, there's a time and a place for skipping an event and taking time to yourself. So, For example, what if instead of going out every Friday night to celebrate getting through the week, you stayed home maybe one Friday out of the month, or maybe every other Friday, instead of going out and going through the stress of having to go out and be social and maybe overeat or drink or whatever you would rather not do, because you could certainly use some time to yourself. Whether it's once a month, whether it's twice a month, you could commit to skipping a social event as a way of making some time to yourself. Something as simple as getting more rest. Get some sleep. You know, it's so easy to get energized on caffeine and sugar and all of these outrageous energy drinks that are available, that you could potentially really be behind on your sleep. Not that you can effectively catch up on it, but I'm trying to introduce you to a better habit of actually getting enough rest in your life. Foregoing sleep, foregoing proper rest, for whatever reasons. The reasons are not important right now. The effect of foregoing rest is what we're talking about. That is adding stress to your life. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep in your life. Get organized and minimize or get rid of procrastination. When you're disorganized, whether in the moment or down the road, that's bound to stress you out, because you're going to find yourself searching for something that you can't find, or whatever the case is. Being disorganized never helped anybody feel less stressed. And it's the same thing with procrastination. Maybe you're avoiding something today, maybe you don't want to do it, maybe you think that you're decreasing stress in some sense, but the reality is that when you are procrastinating, you are effectively scheduling stress for yourself down the road. So I strongly suggest that you get organized and really grab hold of any procrastination in your life and minimize it, or get rid of it altogether if you can. It's also important to figure out your priorities. Look, as much as you would like to, you cannot be everything to everybody. So you have to figure out what your priorities are. Not only amongst things like tasks and people, but also when it comes to things like your own well-being, your own sanity, your own happiness. So what's most important? And look, that task or that list of priorities is not going to be written in stone all the time and the same every single day, because things change. But overall, your health and well-being have to be somewhere towards the top of that priority list. If you're a parent, your kids will always be somewhere, hopefully, towards the top of that list. Hopefully your spouse is somewhere towards the top of that list, but it shouldn't necessarily be long-term at the cost of your own health and well-being. So these are the kinds of things that you have to consider. And when we talk about priorities, something else to think about is delegating responsibilities, or getting your partner to share in responsibilities. It's so easy to take on all the responsibilities and just assume that you're the only one who can get X, Y, and Z done, when in reality, there are many things that you can delegate, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether we're talking your professional experience, or whether we're talking about your romantic relationship with your partner, your spouse, whatever the case may be. So it's important that you are not overloading yourself with responsibilities which could be shared by others or delegated to others. So make sure that that's something that you consider as well. So hopefully today's video got you thinking, got the the brain cells, the neurons firing, and the gears turning to get you thinking about how you may be contributing to your own stress and what you can do to start uncontributing or contributing less to the stress in your life. If you would like to learn more about how to reduce stress in your life, check out the link below.